Share screen. Not right. I sent you to this, by the way. Anybody wants to download this? Share screen. Share screen, what happened? There it is. Here it is. Is this it? No, this is the mimer. Terrible. I'm trying to do it. It's not working. Turn the meeting. Share screen. Stop. Is this it? Yes, this is it. Okay. Law number 6. So we said the things that you would never use, like we had the knife, a shochet knife, a slaughtering knife, or something that's really valuable, that you would never use it. That's considered to be muktzah, and you can never use it. You can never move it. Can't move it. That's called totally muktzah. But Cain also kordesh shedachim bo besamim, and also a hammer or a pestle, whatever it is, that you use to crush spices. The makom shemakpidim aleh, in places where they are very careful not to use it for any other purpose. In other words, you have a special hammer that pounds, that you don't want it to get dirty from any other thing. Only you use it only for spices. Harizem muktzah is called muktzah machmas chesrontis, because you can't crush up spices on Shabbos. You could use it for pounding you could use it for cracking a nut, which is permissible on Shabbos. It says, no, you can't. Why not? Because you're careful about this hammer, that you never use it for anything else. Therefore, this is called totally muktzah, and you cannot move it with your hands. But places where they're not so careful about this pulverizer, this hammer, you can carry it for itself or its place like any other kli, a vessel, the malachtal iser, any other vessel that is used for a forbidden purpose. So in other words, if you have a regular hammer, you're a carpenter and you have hammers that you use to pound in nails with, but you're not that careful about this hammer. You would use the hammer to crack a nut with. You would use it, right? Or to the back part of the hammer, let's say to pop open a bottle, cap off. So if it is a hammer that you would use, you're not so careful about it, then even though the hammer is a tool that is used for a forbidden purpose to pound in nails, that's forbidden on Shabbos, but you're allowed to use such a thing because it is a tool and it's a vessel. You're allowed to move it for either itself for a permissible purpose, cracking nuts, or if you want the place where it is. Like we are going to explain more. More examples. Niyar chalak. What about plain paper that's standing ready to be written upon? Okay, nowadays paper is pretty cheap, but it doesn't seem to make any difference. If it's paper that's standing, that's ready to be written upon, you would not do anything else with it. Writing is forbidden on Shabbos. Then that piece of paper is called muktzah machmas chisrontis. That you're makpi, you're careful about it, that you should not use it for anything else so that it should not get dirty. If by you paper is worth nothing, and sometimes you take a piece of plain paper, let's say to use it as a placemat and to eat on it or something, right? Or let's say you have there's a dirt or something on your chair, and you put a couple of pieces of paper on there. Paper used to be very valuable. No, it's not that valuable anymore. If the paper is something that you really don't value, then you could move it with your hands. Again, I want to stress that moving, we'll get to that in, I think, law number 15, that muktzah, the laws of muktzah means these are things that are forbidden to move with your hands. But if you're not intending to move something, you can touch anything and want. If there's no chance you're going to move it, to touch your car, you're not going to move it if you touch it. Then it's permissible to touch anything if you're not going to move it. And and conversely, if you can move anything, as long as you don't move it with your hands, right? You find a wad of $100 bills in the street, you can kick it with your foot. But it also shekiv and since shemakpid, and you have to be careful not to kick it more than 4 amos. Instead, kiv and since shemakpid, love that you're careful with it, not to use this paper for anything else. Therefore, it's not even considered to be a vessel at all, like we're going to explain in the very next law. Next law. All of this is talking about a thing that has a vessel on it. Now, law number 8. That has the law of a vessel on it. But any item that is not a vessel for anything, and it's not food, in other words, you never use it. Take an example. See, money, for instance. You don't use money for other things, right? You use money for one thing. Money. Do you do anything with money? You actually use it to eat on it, use it as a screwdriver. You use money for anything? No. People have money only to buy things. In other words, the money itself is not a vessel. We'll see. Or you have anything which is not edible. Edible. Something which is not food. It's not food for man. It's not food for your animals. Could go on stones, money, pieces of wood, sticks, boards, dirt, sand, flour, dough. You can't do anything with these things on Shabbos. On Yom Tov, things like flour and dough you can make into a bread. You can cook bread on Shabbos on Yom Tov, God forbid. On Yom Tov. On Yom Tov you can cook, so these things would not be muktzah. There's also muktzah on Yom Tov also. Same as Shabbos, but the thing is that anything which is relevant to eating on Yom Tov is permissible to move. Kemach, in one way, it's more severe, the muktzah of Yom Tov, because there's what's called nolad. We'll talk about that later. A vessel that breaks on Shabbos, it's more lenient than if it breaks on Yom Tov. The pieces. Kemach v'isa. Okay. All of these things are muktzah. You cannot move them with your hands, not for their own use, not for the place where they are. You have a pile of flour in the middle of your table, or pile of dirt, or a few big bundles of dough in the middle of your the dinner table. You can't move them with your hands. Can't move with your hands. Let's say a non-Jew came and he dumped a big pile of dirt on your eating table, right? On Shabbos. Too bad. You can't move it. You'll have to move it with your feet or somehow or other. So some people say that only if these things, all these things like stones, we had stones and money and wood and sticks and things like that, they're muktzah if it's of a Jew. But if these things belong to a non-Jew, some people say it's okay to move them. Like it's going to be explained later on. Why? Because the non-Jew is intending to move them. Okay, we'll learn this later on. Okay. There's more things that are forbidden to touch. Listen to this. Animals. You have a nice little cat. Your dog cuddles up and wants to be petted. Don't do it. Say to the cat or the dog, Shabbos Hayom, and they will understand. Anything that are similar to that, even if it was a thing that you can use some sort of a purpose that's permissible on Shabbos. For instance, you have stones. No, you can lift up a rock and you can break with it a nut. What about sruros? What about you have little pebbles and you could cover with them some sort of a vessel? Or you want to cover dirt on the ground or something. A chicken comes into your house, goes to the bathroom on the ground. You want to cover it up. with pebbles. The kol kiyotze, similar things like that. Too bad. Since these things are not considered to be vessels in any way, they have no real use in themselves. So there's not the law of a vessel on them, that it's forbidden to carry them even for themselves, even if you want to use it for a permissible purpose or for their place. Only according to the ways which we're going to explain later on. And this is called muksa machmas gufo. This, in a way, is the most severe type of muksa. It's the same thing for the thing that's really precious, valuable. But this is the ideal category of muksa, things which are not vessels and are only, right, they're not vessels and you weren't intending to use them on Shabbat. We'll learn if you have a big pile of dirt and you singled it out before Shabbat and said that if I have need for it, I'll use it on Shabbat, then that could be permissible. But as far as we know now, right, somebody says to you, hey, I've got a pile of stones, here's a bunch of money, let's move it with our hands on Shabbos. Wood, sticks, flour, dough, don't move it with your hands on Shabbos. This is called muktzah. Why? Because it reminds you that it's Shabbos and also reminds you not to carry it out on Shabbos, and it also enables you to do what the prophets said, right? That your deeds on Shabbat should be different than the deeds on the weekday. And we'll continue more, God willing, next week